Today, I'm joined by the amazing Melika Biglarpour Watson, a licensed psychotherapist with years of experience specializing in anxiety, self-criticism, trauma, and relationships. What I focus with her on today is her certification in breathwork and understanding the holistic approach to mental health and resilience when it comes to our leadership. Let's go ahead and get into it. Well, we have Melika here with us today. Melika, thank you so much for joining the In Vivo Leadership Strategies podcast. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. And thanks for, again, coming on board. We are doing something very different. I haven't seen a lot of people in leadership and consulting firms think about this the way you and I are collaborating together today, which is what does the leadership world look like from a therapy point of view and how that can help us, especially with the breathing techniques, work with leaders and help leaders make better decisions. Before we get into that, I would love to hear how you got to where you are today. Can you walk me through your career?
Yeah. It was a lot of schooling. Um, pursuing a bachelor's degree in psychology, which I just always found people interesting and their interactions really interesting and how our minds will have our insecurities or, decide to have a specific reaction. It was all just really fascinating. And so that's what started it out for me. Also, coming from a culture where we don't talk a lot about our emotions, we don't talk about therapy a lot. So, wanting to provide that space for other cultures who go through the same experience as well. And then got into grad school, pursued clinical psychology, did all the thousands of hours that are required to become licensed, and worked in a lot of nonprofit organizations, in a lot of rehabilitation settings, and then decided that the goal was to go into private practice. And that's what I accomplished this past year, is starting my own business, um, building my own clientele, and then starting to incorporate more of the certifications of how I wanted to find my niche, which was around breath work and sex therapy and working around anxiety.
That's amazing. What inspired you to go into the breath work? Because I'll share this with the audience. I was fortunate enough to work with you and had a couple sessions, and it revolutionized the way I took in information and showed up for people.
As I was doing my own personal therapy and also being a therapist, I started to really notice when we're talking about trauma, me personally, and some of my clients were hitting a wall. We would tell the story, and then it was kind of like, okay, like I shared my story, but I'm still feeling it, that it felt like it wasn't enough. I know sometimes it is enough, and that is beautiful in itself, talk therapy. And other times it wasn't enough. So that's when I started looking more into what are some somatic ways to help the body release trauma that doesn't involve talking. And sometimes talking about the story can actually be re-traumatizing. And it wasn't the path that people wanted to go down, which is totally understandable. Yeah, so I started looking at different somatic exercises. I came across BBTRS, which is Biodynamic Breathwork Release Institute, and I started attending some of their workshops and free community sessions, and that's when I started seeing the shift for myself. It was just a big energetic and body sensation release that I hadn't experienced in talk therapy.
So if I were to put myself in our audience shoes, one of the big questions that I would have is how do breathing techniques support better focus and emotional regulation, especially during times when we have high pressure moments like presentations or tough negotiations to go through as leaders? What are your thoughts?
Breathing techniques can be so effective. Our breath plays such a huge role in how we handle pressure. So if you think about it, when we are stressed out, like we have to make a tough decision or a big deadline is coming up, our breath naturally changes. Our breath will signal to our nervous system that it needs to speed up, right? It's like, hey, we have this big deadline coming up. We need the energy to push through and get it done. And so your breath starts to speed up. And then you will go into a fight flight response. And a lot of times people will think of the fight flight response as a traumatic response that comes up during trauma. And that's true and valid. And it also comes up in our daily life when we are dealing with projects, presentations, just any stressful event that can come up. And the really cool part is on the other side, our breath can also tell our nervous system to slow down. And so when the stressful moment passes, our breath gives our body the message it's safe to relax now. And so what's amazing is that we can actually control this.
Mm-hmm.
With intentionally focusing on our breath, taking deep inhales and extending the exhale, we can regulate our emotions. It's such a simple tool and it really works. Whether you're about to present or handle a negotiation, just a few intentional deep breaths can lower your heart rate, it can clear your mind and help you stay focused.
I love that. And one of the analogies that came to my mind is I have a friend who does weightlifting. This is different from what we're talking about. But even when she would start on new machines, she would make sure that she takes a deep breath before she starts on there, just to let her body know that now we're going to do the next sets. And slowed herself down. And that breathing technique really helped her. And it really aligns with what you're talking about, because that's a way for you to give your body a pause and a moment to adapt to what's happening to them.
Yeah, exactly.
So some of our audience, especially when you're in a leadership position, we feel like the day-to-day really hinders us from actually practicing this. What are some quick, actionable breathing techniques that leaders can use during their busy work days to reset and refocus?
This is the best part. I love talking about different techniques that people can try. I'm thinking about 5 quick and simple techniques. One is a belly breathing. And this is when you put a hand on your chest and a hand on your belly. You take a deep breath in for 4 seconds, and then you allow your exhale to come out for 6 seconds. And doing this a few times until you start noticing that you're feeling more calm and more at ease. And it's important for the exhale to be longer than the inhale so that your nervous system starts to calm and start to release some of the tension that's being held in.
That's huge, because sometimes I think when we do breathing techniques, we get stuck on the inhale, that the exhale is like fast, fast, fast. You're
Mm-hmm.
saying do the opposite, spend more time in the exhale rather than the inhale.
Yeah. Yeah, the exhale is what activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is where rest and digestion happens.
Besides the belly and the heart, any other techniques you would recommend?
Yeah, so another one is acupressure breathing. So this is taking slow, steady breaths while you are applying pressure to an acupressure point. So the muscle in between your index finger and your thumb is an acupressure point. So as you're applying some pressure there, you combine the rhythm of your breath to the pressure or the movement that you're massaging the muscle. This is a really quick and simple way to help your nervous system calm down and to feel more grounded.
Mhm. That's great. And we get stuck in our own mindset, right? We have a perception of what has worked, what hasn't. And as leaders, sometimes we think we know the answers to everything. So hearing a podcast about breathing, you can easily say, well, that sounds lovely, but that doesn't work for me. It's not helpful. So I want to push our audience into thinking about how this is helpful. How can consistent practice of our breathing techniques really enhance our overall leadership presence and even our communication skills?
Consistently practicing breathing techniques can have a huge impact on leadership presence and communication. Going back to how I was sharing earlier about the nervous system, our nervous system naturally fluctuates between sympathetic fight flight response to parasympathetic rest and digest. So, whether you're a solo business owner or you're managing a team, when we're dealing with stress, we can get stuck in that fight flight response. Or sometimes we can even go into a freeze response where we or holding our breath throughout the whole day or holding in all the tension throughout the whole day. By focusing on our breath intentionally and regularly, we are training our nervous system to release the tension and to manage stress more effectively.
Mhm.
This means that in high stakes situations like leading a meeting or addressing conflict, you can stay calm and grounded and you come across more confident and composed. So breathwork, it enhances our ability to pause before we respond. That way we're not responding impulsively or we're maybe on the opposite end, we're not avoiding conflict either, right? So we can deliver our message with intention and clarity.
You just made me reflect on a piece where, as leaders, we tend to feel like we have to fill in pauses or gaps, and we can't have these awkward silences. Whereas, from what I'm hearing from you, those are actually essential in our world.
Yeah. By taking those pauses, by focusing on our breath, it helps us build self-awareness.
Mhm.
We become more attuned to our breath, which will lead to becoming more attuned to our emotions, to our body, and the energy in the room. And that's so helpful when we want to build emotional intelligence, which, in my opinion, that is what sets great leaders apart.
This was not a question that I wanted to ask you, but I am curious what your opinions are. Can you think of a leader who has done this? There is one that came to my mind
Yeah.
immediately. Michelle Obama in her last speech.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
had done a good job with that.
Yeah. I agree. I think, I mean, both of them, Michelle Obama and Barack Obama, when they are giving a speech,
Mhm.
it's not pressured, it's not rushed. There is that pause. And when we take that pause, it really allows the emotion to sit in not just for the speaker, but for the people who are listening.
Yeah, we need to process more. And we tend to forget that in this quick world, this fast-paced world. We deal with a lot of imposter syndrome and self-doubt as leaders. And it shows up in ugly ways. Sometimes it shows up in our anxiety. Sometimes it shows up as a passive aggressive reaction that we have to others. Do you find that certain breathing techniques could work better for leaders that are dealing with imposter syndrome or self-doubt?
Yeah, imposter syndrome and self-doubt is so common. So many of us experience it. And I wish it was that we had one specific technique that can just like get it out of there, right? That would be so nice. Unfortunately, I don't think there is just one technique that does that. For me, I found it really helpful to have a combination of psychotherapy with active breath work to work through my own feelings of imposter syndrome. A lot of times when we are talking about imposter syndrome, we also want to look at what is the belief system associated with it. So, personally, for me, it's this feeling or this thought that I'm not good enough, whether it's as a therapist, a business owner, just this message of I'm not good enough comes up. And a lot of that is rooted in childhood experiences, right? Whether we either were criticized by our caregivers or we witnessed our caregiver experience self doubt. And when we think about that root, for a lot of people, that could be related to trauma. And combining psychotherapy and breath work, we really get to process where the root comes from and then work on the tension and energy that our body has been holding on to since childhood.
So if someone gets stuck in this doesn't work for me or the breathing exercises, the what I'm getting out of your answer is you really need to figure out what are you carrying? What's the heavy weight that you're carrying that's causing you to have this imposter syndrome or the self-doubt?
Yeah. And what's really amazing about breath work is that sometimes we might not remember. Sometimes we might have no idea what the root is. And when we start going through the breath work exercise, we are activating our fight fight response. That is what a charged breath looks like. We're not just staying in the fight flight, we're allowing the breath and the body to pendulate between activation and rest and relax. And that will allow for the body to release those tensions that's being held onto, even if you don't remember what it's associated with. And what I love about this is that for me, it feels like I'm able to complete a stress cycle that I've been carrying since childhood that I didn't have the capacity to complete back then.
If I were your client, I want to put you a little bit on the spot, but let's say we want to combine it because I want the listeners to get an understanding of what it is when we say psychotherapy versus with the breathing technique. Can you do a quick 2 minutes? And I know this is 2 minutes, so it's not like ideally for a client, this is not something that you would recommend. But just to give an example of that, can you walk me through what that's like to combine those two pieces together?
Yeah, yeah. So, actually, are you open to doing a little breathing exercise?
I would love that. Let's do it. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, a lot of times when we're going throughout our day, we might encounter a moment where we don't feel safe. Maybe our environment doesn't feel safe. Maybe you're about to give a presentation and you start feeling really anxious. So, something I want to ask you to do is just take a moment and take a couple of deep breaths.
And I would recommend the audience to do this with me too.
Okay. So now when you think about the space you're in and being in this podcast with me on a scale of 0 to 5, with 0 being not secure at all and 5 being extremely secure, how secure do you feel?
I feel very secure because we've worked together before. So I feel very, very much like I can trust the space that I'm in.
Yeah. And describe to me what very secure feels like to you. What are some things that are making the space feel very secure? Some sensations, feelings?
My heart feels okay. It's not I don't feel nervous. I don't feel anxious working with you. Um, my head is also at the right space. And what I mean by that is I'm not thinking about 20 things, which I know sometimes when we've had our sessions, it's going at a rapid pace. So you have had to slow me down to get to experience what we were doing together better. So the two areas that I usually have a difficult time with, they feel they feel safe.
Okay. Yeah. So what I want you to do is you're going to cross your arms across your chest with your palms facing on your chest. And as you're thinking about all of these positive sensations, the rapport that we have, your heart feeling okay, your head being in a good space, slowly one at a time, tap your palm against your chest. It's a very soft, slow, gentle tap. And just think about all of those positive sensations.
Yeah. And I feel like if you've done the breathing techniques a couple times, the feelings that you get from the tapping, all of that starts to become second nature. It starts to come quicker than when we had our first few sessions together.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And now allow yourself to take a deep breath in. Let your exhale go. Beautiful. What are you noticing in this moment?
I was trying to make sure my exhale took longer than I usually do. So I
Mhm.
feel much more calm. I feel like I've slowed myself down. Today is a Monday that we're recording this podcast, so I feel like I was going super fast throughout my entire day, and now it's slowed me down to where it's kind of like if you put a fly around me, it goes in slow motion, so I'm more able to like catch it, which goes into what this podcast is all about, and that's making decisions better and more efficiently. And you do need to slow yourself down to do that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And this exercise is so great because you can do it on your own at any point, wherever you are, right? We're just taking in the positive sensations and we're tapping it into our nervous system as a reminder of, okay, this is a moment I can ground, I can take for myself, and no one can take that moment from you. It's yours.
Mhm. How do we get out of the mentality of here's one more thing I need to do? It's one more exercise I have to bring in to be a quote unquote better leader. What is your thought about that?
This
Yeah.
is such a great question. As leaders, we are not only just busy with work, we're busy in our personal lives too. It can feel so overwhelming to think, okay, I got to add one more thing into my day.
Mhm.
And when it comes to new routines, I always recommend keep it small, convenient, and most importantly, fun. If it's not something that you're enjoying, it's going to be really hard to stick with it. So, starting with experimenting different breath works, maybe some of the ones that we talked about earlier, and seeing what connects with you, what feels right. And then set a reminder on your phone just to help build it into your rhythm. As you get more comfortable, you can gradually extend the time. Start with 3 minutes, start with 5 minutes, and slowly build the time. And then you can try adding in an additional exercise. The consistency is key. The more we do it, the more it starts to feel natural, and the more that we start seeing the benefits that come from breathing. Now, when we're talking about adding in an hour grounding, a breathwork session, right, where maybe you join a virtual group or you go into a session in person, we might be thinking, there's no way I don't have an hour in my day. And I totally get that. I hear that. At the same time, if you think about it, we set an hour aside to scroll through our phone, to get our hair done, to do something around the house, right? And we're doing this because it makes us feel good. It makes life convenient. And with that, with adding in breath work, it's a little bit about a mindset shift. This is an investment in yourself, in your well being,
Mhm.
in yourself as a leader, as a parent, sibling, whatever role you take on, shifting this as it's self care for you so that you can show up for yourself and the people around you.
Yeah, well said. Because we tend to feel, I mean, I'll speak for myself. I feel like the investment piece starts to fall off because I get so focused on how to perform that I forget that an investment that I put for myself. It's kind of like the self-development, right? And you're right, we do spend a great deal of our time on our phones, on social media, and that is in no way helpful for us even as a content creator now, I have just started in that platform. It's not doing me that much good other than releasing what I do to other people. So technically speaking, when I'm done with my day, I haven't contributed any time for myself.
Yeah, yeah. And it can be hard. There's no doubt about that. So finding areas or times in the day where it's a little bit more convenient, right? Like in the morning while you're drinking your coffee or at night before you go to bed. Breathwork is so powerful because it's your breath, it's your body. It's not an external thing that you have to go buy and fit it into your schedule. It's a natural part of your body that you carry with you every single day. And once we can hone into that, we start seeing growth and thriving, and we're calmer and more focused. Like I said earlier, the consistency is really what makes a huge difference.
And if we go through our daily work, let's say I'm in a meeting and I'm dealing with someone who's very difficult, how can I remember breathing? And how can I practice it while I'm in the meeting?
Yeah. It's possible that in the beginning, when you're first starting out, you're not going to remember. And that's okay. You might go through that meeting and then afterwards think, oh, wow, it would have been really great to breathe. Breathe right then. It's never too late.
Mhm.
If you are in a meeting and you start to notice my heart rate is increasing or my jaw is tensing, my shoulders are tensing, those are usually really good cues of, okay, I'm not breathing. Then doing the belly breathing, you don't have to put your hand on your chest and your stomach if you don't want other people to notice. Taking a pause and taking that long inhale and then even longer exhale. A lot of times people won't notice that you're doing that. You can even just breathe through your nose. And sometimes it can also be helpful to bring your focus to items that are in front of you as you're taking those deep breaths. Maybe touching your coffee cup and feeling the heat of the coffee on your against your palm. as a way to bring you back into the present moment.
Man, mindfulness is getting harder and harder, Malika. Yeah. Are there any resources that you would recommend? Of course, I will ask you about your content and how we can find you and your wonderful work. Can you walk us through some of your resources and then some other resources that you would recommend?
Yeah. So I share a lot of resources on my Instagram page, which is MBW Psychotherapy. Um, Also, if you go on my website, I have a newsletter that you can sign up, and I will share resources, tips, and sometimes even free breathwork, community breathwork sessions on there as well. Other great platforms to check out is YouTube has a lot of guided breathwork sessions. So just looking up somatic breathwork exercises, felt sense breathwork exercises. You can look up progressive muscle relaxation. That is a really great one for releasing pent up tension in the body. I also really like the Calm app. I like their meditations and their mindfulness exercises. Yeah, I think utilizing YouTube, utilizing Google, you don't have to go out there and pay for breathwork sessions if it's not in your financial need at this moment. If it is, there's also a lot of great different facilitators out there who do virtual sessions, in-person sessions. I myself do it virtual and in person. So the resources out there, and if anyone has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them as well.
Great. And I will make sure that your website and your Instagram are in the description of this episode so that people can reach out to you and ask more questions or just get to know you or use your services. Before we end the episode, do you have any last minute tips or comments?
I mean, well, first I want to say thank you for this opportunity. Breathwork isn't something that I think it's starting to become more talked about, but it's still really new and fresh. And so I'm really excited that we get to have this opportunity to share how leaders can include this into their work. And just knowing that it's okay if you feel like you're not good at it. It's okay if you feel like you've tried some and it hasn't worked. Keep trying, try different techniques, try different strategies. And if you forget, be compassionate with yourself. That's the biggest part. It's okay to not remember in that moment. It's okay to remember later. It's okay to have that self doubt or that anxiety. Those are natural experiences we go through. Being kind and compassionate with yourself and practicing different techniques until it starts to feel more natural for you.
What a beautiful way to end this episode. Thank you so much, Malika. And I hope to have you back where we can discuss some other topics. But for the time being, I wish you a wonderful day and we'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.